Welcome to another special edition of Everything in Moderation. Eric, what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to be recapping the presidential debate and also talking about our president having COVID-19.
Eric, I'm assuming that you'd like to start us off.
Yeah, I'd like to start us off. I think it's very ironic that Donald Trump, who's been downplaying COVID-19 for however long it's been, 8 months, gets the disease 2 days later hospitalized, saying, oh, it's whatever, it's not a big deal, it's just the flu. Meanwhile, as soon as he gets it, instantly hospitalized. The worst part goes to Walter Reed Medical Center when he doesn't pay taxes, which is funded by the people, while fighting against healthcare for all. I think that is just the most ironic thing ever. Thoughts?
He's the president of the United States. Of course he's going to the best facility in the world.
I didn't say it was the best facility in the world. I said he's fighting against what he's using.
I know. And you said he went to Walter Reed, which was funded by the people.
Yep. Very ironic.
Do you think that he got hydroxychloroquine?
Absolutely not. They would never let him put that in his body. I heard he got dexamethasone, which is like for people who have like slightly more than a mild case. So he probably has like a little bit of trouble breathing, maybe like small pneumonia.
Yeah, I think when I heard about that, it said that he was feeling tired. I mean, only he knows his actual symptoms, but
I'm tired too.
What?
I don't go to a hospital because I'm tired. I go to sleep.
those hospital beds be hitting, I guess.
He's probably tired because they're giving him a fuck ton of drugs too.
That's a fair point.
I was reading an article on Wall Street Journal today that, like, after the debates, it's the first post-debate tracking from all the big national polls that they do. He's down 14 points to Biden right now.
Really? Interesting.
He was only leading in one thing, and he was up like 48-41 in it, but I don't remember which thing it was.
All right, we can move on to the debate if no one has anything else interesting to say. So my question would be, who do you guys think won, if anyone, and why?
People that won, or the people that didn't listen to the debate?
Yeah, that's facts.
I spent an hour and a half of my life listening to two children argue with each other.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I didn't think there was really a winner. They both had their times where they kind of looked like idiots, but one more than the other. But I think that I tried to just look on like the positive side of thing, because mostly everyone's going to be looking at the negatives and like how, like, they just argued, whatever. And I tried to just focus on like a couple things that I liked that both of them said. But we'll get into that when we talk more about what they actually said.
Just my thoughts on that. I think that Biden won for the simple fact that Trump definitely didn't gain any voters that weren't going to vote for him in the first place. And since he's like behind in all the polls, that's why it's
who's to say that though?
Well, I just don't know how anyone who doesn't already support Trump could watch him constantly interrupting and just say, oh, this is the guy that I want to vote for. I don't know if Biden necessarily did anything positive. I feel like he would have, but he kept getting rattled when Trump was interrupting him. I feel like Biden had a more like honest debate, but you can't really do that against Trump. You kind of got to fight back, which he started to do a little bit and then kind of like weaned off of it.
Will you just shut up, man? And then he just starts laughing. I'm like, no, keep running with it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like he starts and he's like, he doesn't want to get dragged down to Trump's level, which kind of makes sense, especially because he does have the advantage and doesn't want to do anything crazy.
I think that was smart of him to hold back.
I do have to say, I really did enjoy the Trump shots. They gave me quite a few chuckles.
Yeah.
I was enjoying myself listening.
China, eat your lunch, Joe. that was my favorite one. First thing I want to talk about. What was that, Eric?
I was just gonna say I watched the debate with all of my housemates, and we yelled through about half of it. So if I missed something, that's probably why.
Yeah,
I was watching some clips today to kind of refresh my memory. The first thing I want to talk about is Chris Wallace. How did we think that we have? How did we think? How did he do? And if there was another debate, would you have him do it again?
I think he did exactly what he wanted to do. I don't necessarily think that's the best case scenario as the moderator between these two. I think he needed a stronger one that's willing to say, yo, no, you're actually done. Stop talking. That's it.
That's kind of what he was
Hang off your
doing.
microphone.
That's kind of what he did, but he just like Trump didn't listen. He's like, yo, like it's not your turn, stop. And then he would stop for like 4 seconds and just interrupt him.
The moderator needs the power to just turn off the person's microphone.
Yeah, I think they said for future debates that's what they would do if they were to happen.
There was a lot of controversy around that statement too. What would you guys have to say to that? Like, where they think that, like, you know, silencing.
No, I want that. I don't want to hear two children argue with each other for an hour and a half. If I wanted to do that, I'd go to, like, I don't know, 10 years in the past and just watch me and my brother on camera.
I don't think it's like, I don't like the narrative that it's like two children arguing. Like, I don't really think Joe Biden was like a willing participant in that. I think it was more like he was getting interrupted by a 2-year-old. That's the way I saw it, at least. I don't know about you guys.
I mean,
Surprise.
Yeah, well,
like, I think that someone actually like brought up like stats of how many times the two interrupted each other. I think it was like Trump was in the hundreds and Biden was in like 50 something. So, I mean, like, obviously one interrupted more than the other. There's no refuting that. But to say that they both contributed a little bit to that. Basically what I said is that, like, Chris Wallace had zero control of the room, but the two candidates having no respect for that rule made it hard for him as well too. Obviously one respected the rule a little bit more. You saw how at one point I was rewatching a certain segment of it, and it's about race issues, and Biden, like, when Trump had the floor, Biden interrupted, and then Chris Wallace is like, it's his time, and he's like, oh, sorry, okay. So, like, that does count as an interruption, even though he didn't, like, you know, run with it.
Yep.
But yeah,
that's pretty much what I was gonna say. I feel like when Trump interrupted, it was more of like a dragged out thing, and Biden would just say a comment and then stop.
it was really annoying because of how I honestly, honest to God, I can't remember the first question, but it somehow got to COVID when the question was not even related to COVID.
It was the economy.
Yes, it just like,
I don't want to hear about COVID if you're talking about the economy. Stick to what you're supposed to be talking about.
The thing is, like, I think Biden's stance was, Biden's like, we can't fix the economy until we fix COVID. And Trump was saying the economy was good until China sent us COVID. So it's kind of like intertwined. So, like, you can't really talk about one without the other.
To be fair, I think Italy sent us COVID.
Yeah, you brought it over.
oh no.
I don't know how to lie.
So I have a question for you guys. Did we learn anything about policies? Like, what kind of policies? Did you learn anything new? That's what I'm mainly trying to touch on.
I actually did. I learned that Joe Biden didn't support the Green New Deal, but also has his own plan. I didn't know that. I looked into it after the debate. Literally had no clue that was a thing. I like what it says.
I also learned that exact thing, and then found out that Joe Biden somehow expects to grab $2 trillion over the next 4 years and personally solve climate change and a whole host of other issues in the next 4 years permanently.
So that's that $2 trillion, where would that come from? Like, as an honest question, like, just where would it come from?
That's my question, because it doesn't say where the money's coming from. It says we need $2 trillion.
Well, first of all, it's a plan that's over like the next 15 years. So it's not like you need $2 trillion.
It doesn't matter. And the plan doesn't matter, because at the absolute most, and there's no way he makes it through 8 years. He gets 8 years. No way does he physically make it through 8 years as the president of the United States. But say by some miracle of God, he manages to. 8 years is not 15 years. I don't want a 15-year plan when the max you can have is 8 years. Give us an 8-year plan.
So
doesn't matter what you think is going to happen afterwards. Doesn't matter if you think another Democrat's going to win, because that Democrat doesn't have to follow your plan, and they're probably not going to, because at that point things will have changed.
But see, this is an argument against the United States political system. It's not an argument against trying to help the planet.
But then don't make a 15-year plan. Make a 4-year plan or an 8-year plan.
Okay, but then the question is, where do you get the $2 trillion in 4 years instead of in 15 years? It becomes even more of a crazy question. And then it's like, how are you going to save the world in 4 years? Like, it's a no-win situation. Your argument isn't against his policy.
I mean, I guess.
So you're saying we shouldn't have any plans for the after 4 years, next 4 years?
No, I think that, I mean, if I could, just come in, I think that Sean is kind of saying like, why is it a 15-year plan when you're only in office for 8 years, when you could like actually like babysit the plan and like make sure that funding directly goes to it? Because there's no saying that after like Joe Biden, say if he takes office and then once he comes out of office, there's no saying that the next person will just like throw the plan in the trash. Obviously, yeah, like it would probably affect something in some positive way. But I think that like a 15-year plan, like it does seem a little bit like strange because like he's not going to be there for 15 years. Even if he was alive, I mean, yeah, he'll probably be alive. But even if he was like in office for all those 15 years, there's no saying that it would, like the next person who wins would continue it.
Yeah, I think that's a problem with American politics. It's just like how Obama had Obamacare and then immediately repealed by Trump. It's just like stuff like that happens, and I don't think that's good for like advancing the country. I think it's stupid.
That's why I think that like if Biden made an 8-year plan, I feel like there's more that you could do because like it accomplished as much as it could in 8 years. Because if you think about it, this plan is 15 years it was to raise how much money in 15 years?
2 trillion.
2 trillion. So Eric, is that what it's for 15 years?
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Okay. I don't think it's 2 trillion a year.
Okay. So basically what that is saying is that to reach the plan's like full capacity where it's fulfilled, it would take 15 years. Do you see like for me, I see kind of a problem with that because like, again, for what I mentioned, but like if it was an 8-year plan, he does it. If it works good, someone will adopt a similar policy.
But I think the problem with that is if it was like an 8-year plan, it would either have to be like incomplete or it would be like an absurdly radical thing where it's like all gas cars are done in 8 years or like something like ridiculous.
It's more, I would say it's more, if you were to do an 8-year plan, it would be more of a downscaling to get it to a point where you could get rid of it. That's how I would have done it. But I don't know. Sean, what's up?
Well, I have 2 things. Number one, going off of your, as you said, cars and gas and everything, I think they should implement a $2 to $3 gas tax on every state in the country, every gallon of gas. It would suck, but it would make us actually solve the issue.
I don't think that's really targeting the issue. That's targeting the consumers when it needs to be targeting like the car companies to make, which they're doing. They're having like subsidies to like Tesla, for example, for having literally 0 emissions with their factories. And I don't think the big issue is cars. It's more to do with like manufacturing. So our factories produce a ton of carbon, what's it called? CO2? Carbon dioxide?
Carbon emissions, yeah.
Carbon emissions, yeah. Sorry. But like Elon Musk's, like all of his Tesla factories like are fully green. They emit 0 carbon. And that's like what our main problem is. It's not really the cars. They definitely like prolong the problem, but they're not the main driving force.
I think that changing the car situation, do you think that would they take longer or like what would be shorter? Changing how the manufacturing is done or changing how cars are made?
I think cars would definitely be shorter. But I also think that even with a 15-year plan, if it's implemented, just to like tie us back, if it's implemented, even if it only lasts for 4 years, the steps that are taken in those 4 years aren't going to just stop if like the next person repeals the plan. Because if they find a way to like put time into this and research and make it like profitable to be green, like that's like the first step. And we haven't really taken that step except for like a small amount of businesses. I think that's an important first step.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you said, profitable. That's the only way you're going to sell a lot of these companies that idea. It needs to benefit them in some way.
100%.
Yeah.
Tesla's kind of proving that it definitely is possible, especially with cars. I don't know much about the other industries, so I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Like, oh, Sean.
Sorry. I'd like to circle back to something Eric said about the problem with the American system of how you can only plan for 8 years and not 15 years. Are you suggesting that presidents should be allowed to run for more terms and be in power longer?
Is this directed at me?
No, Eric.
I feel like that's a band-aid solution. It wouldn't really do anything.
No, I'm asking because you said that it was a problem with the American system. So is your solution to let rulers be rulers longer?
No, my solution is to not make everything so like, because it's like if the Democrats do something, the Republicans get rid of it, and it should be more compromise, and we don't have compromise anymore. That's more of what I meant.
Well, the only way to get out of a two-party system would be to get rid of the Electoral College.
I don't think that's the only way. I think there's a lot of ways. I think ranked choice voting would be one way. I think that'd be a more effective way than the Electoral College, to be honest.
Can you explain how ranked voting would work?
Yes. Basically, instead of just voting for one candidate, you would rank your candidates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depends on whatever the system is, doesn't really matter. But if you're able to like pick like the person you want first and then have like a safe backup, it avoids the problem of us getting a senile old man who wins the primaries because what's it called? Because everyone just wants to vote for the safe candidate, someone who like think can win, someone who like is perpetuating what's going on. And that's kind of what we have here. And I think if people had like a ranked system, they'd be able to put someone who like they think is like better, but not as safe as like number one. So like, for example, like if someone thinks Andrew Yang is the best, they put him number one, and then they put Biden number two as their safe candidate, just in case Yang doesn't win, and they still have like influence with someone who's safer.
Yeah, I mean, that
and also it gets away from like wasting your vote if you vote for a third party, because if you want to vote for a third party, you put them number one, and you still have influence with your second vote and third vote or whatever.
Just to refresh the viewers, is I actually put a poll on my story a couple months ago, and I said a vote for a third party is a vote wasted, or B, you're right. And I really couldn't tell you the percentage, but it was really, really close into like how people thought. Like I was surprised to see how many people said vote wasted, which like I get it, but at the same time, then those same people that want to vote third party are like discouraged from voting third party because they're like, oh, your vote's being wasted. But like you can't identify with, take this election for example, you can't identify with either candidate. So then like what do? Do you vote for like the person that like you think that you hate a little less, or do you just vote for someone that you actually like?
The fact that is the question most of the time, do I hate this one or this one less, I think speaks to the bigger issue with the two parties that are there.
Mm-hmm.
How is it that the best candidates that they can manage to put up are, do I hate this one or this one less?
I'm going to just go on a little tidbit here, but do you know what's very interesting about Russia's political system is that every president since the Soviet Union fell has been independent. They do not belong to any party.
I didn't know that.
That was very interesting to me.
Did it say why?
What?
Did it say why?
No. I mean, I'll look into it, but it's like Boris Yeltsin, obviously Putin for 2 decades. They're both independents. I think that's kind of like, there is something to that, because then it's like you just hate the guy. It's not, you don't hate the party, you just hate the guy.
Yep.
Which I think that it makes it, but then, and accordingly, that means that the guy has a little more power than he would if he were here.
Yeah. Interesting.
Let's go into Trump and Biden performance wise. Let's cover Trump first. Who wants to get us started?
Well, I know what to say. So.
Yeah. Go for it.
I mean, I really can't say that either one of them did that well. I would say that I tend to agree that Trump did act a little bit more like a child than Biden did, but also that was exactly what I expected. So it wasn't really shocking to me. I can't really say that I learned anything, except that Trump is very good at hitting with one-liners. He had some new ones. Very
Get a
creative.
career in comedy after this if he wants.
Creative.
He makes it.
What was that, Eric?
I said if he makes it.
Yeah. I have two questions that I want you guys to answer. You give me a little bit of an opinion. Are people looking at him with too much hate and therefore blowing things out of proportion, like they're looking for like a confirmation bias?
I think
That like sucks.
Sorry, I thought you were done. I think that some people are looking at him not for confirmation bias, but they need like some head figure to blame for the whole assortment of issues, and he is a controversial figure, so they have just made him target number one. He's got a target on his face, which, I mean, it kind of looks like he does already. Literally.
Listen, I think Trump gets blamed for a lot of things that aren't his fault, but I also think he gets blamed for a lot of things that are 100% his fault.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know, you guys might say this is taken out of context, but the clip where he's asked to like condemn like white supremacy and the Proud Boys, and he says stand by, or like stand down and stand by, but someone's got to do something about Antifa. Like, I think that
he did not deny it, which I thought was really bad. He did not deny it.
that's because he's literally talking to the people who support him the most. Those are like the people that like love him more than anyone else.
It was kind of funny because I literally wrote that as my follow-up question. What does stand down and stand by mean? So explain.
I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was like a picture going around of like a Proud Boys, like I don't even know, like a forum, and it was like the people in the Proud Boys were saying like, oh, like we hear you loud and clear, Mr. President, standing by, like stuff like that. And I just don't think that's the right message to send. I think that even if Trump isn't racist, I think he is, but even if he's not, you can make the argument either way. I think that's just a really bad message to send. And to the people who are racist, they will see that as something like, yeah, like this is cool now. And I don't think that's okay.
Personally, I think if he just ended it at stand down, perfect. There you
Yeah,
go.
agree.
The stand by thing that was met with a little bit of confusion by me, but that's not to say, like they say that Trump refuses to condemn white supremacy, but you could, if you want to find the clip, you could look at it. Like you could find clips of him saying that, like he doesn't directly say the word, but he alludes to it. I think that like it's just, how many times does a guy like have to be asked the same question? I mean, yeah, he should still answer it, but like again, I think that you have to do something with Antifa as well, but there's still like you got to treat every situation sort of equally in this sense, or well, not in this case, but
the thing is, like this was his like the biggest audience he had or will have for however long time, and the fact that he refused to do it when he has like the biggest voice, it like pisses me off. And also to respond to your Antifa thing, I think Antifa is a little bit different than like a white supremacist group.
Yeah, that's why I kind of corrected myself.
Just making sure.
No, they're different. They're definitely different. I said they're definitely different. Those are not the same thing.
And I couldn't believe when Biden fired back. He was like, Antifa's not an organization, it's an idea. I was like, whoa, wow, that was like, I'm glad he said that.
I didn't agree with that.
I think they are an organization.
They just are not.
To Biden now, what did you guys think about Biden?
You want to go first, Sean?
No, I'll let you. I know he's your quote-unquote candidate as the resident liberal.
I hate being called a liberal, but I think that Biden answered like the questions he was asked more than Trump did. Trump has a very annoying tendency where he just like pivots. Like someone asked him about like what he can do for Black people, and he's immediately like, "Oh, the Black unemployment rate was so good until COVID," and like that's not like a real answer. Like, what like the question is, what are you gonna do? I feel like Biden at least tries to directly address the question he's asked. I think that he didn't really like I said, he got rattled when Trump would interrupt him, and I think that kind of messed with him. But the one thing I will say that I was watching for was if he was like able to stand there for 2 hours and have a conversation and not make a fool of himself. And I 100% think he accomplished that. He did. Like I think he has a stutter. I don't think he's like mentally disabled. I legitimately just think it's like a stutter, and it gets worse when he's nervous and gets worse when he's interrupted. So that's the one thing I will say.
I think that Biden did do well, and I agree with you that you know what, I was talking to my dad about it, and he said something that I think pretty much sums up Joe Biden. If Joe Biden was allowed to stand there and take his time with his answers and have no distractions, he would have a very good answer. However, I don't think, I mean, like, I don't want someone as my president that can't just come up with something off the tip of their tongue. I don't want someone who needs to be able to read a prepared statement and have read it 10 times before he actually reads it to the public to actually be able to get out a semi-coherent sentence without bumbling the words and sounding like he needs to go to speech therapy. Like,
I liked where you started and you went to a wild place. I don't think our president needs to be good at delivering one-liners. I don't think that helps.
No, I'm not saying one-liners. I'm saying he needs to be able to come up with a speech/statement off the top of his head and give a coherent response without needing prep time or without needing to go over it multiple times and also be able to do it without any distractions. If you're doing it in front of the press, there's always going to be distractions. You need to be able to give your entire speech, statement, whatever, with no prep time, with distractions, and be able to get it off correctly. And I don't think Joe Biden can do that.
So I think I was listening to Joe Rogan and Tim Kennedy was on. Tim Kennedy said that, like, to speak on what you were saying, Sean, like Biden will be in like the briefing room and like he'll just be like and then he'll hear whatever, and then when it comes to like president, like, what do you want to do? And then like it's like a split decision like that. Like, can Joe Biden make split decisions like that? I have no idea. We have no idea. I think the only way to see that is if he wins, and we know. There's no saying how he'll deal with it now, but I think that that's an interesting question and it's a valid concern too.
Just to respond to that, because I only heard the end of that because I was writing down my response to Sean. I think it's like weird to say that a president should have to like have an answer to something without prep time, because on the one end of the spectrum you have Donald Trump, who it's reported that he doesn't read his briefings for the day, and I think like awesome that he can make decisions without being prepared, but at a certain point you need to have evidence before you make decisions as the leader of the United States.
I'm not saying make a decision before you have evidence. I'm saying if somebody gives you a quote, you need to be able to respond to that without having to go to your backroom staff, work out a response, and then read a prepared response with no distractions.
Did you see that in the debate?
Not do that.
I didn't see that during the debate.
He couldn't get a sentence out properly, even when Trump wasn't in
Go
trouble.
ahead. I disagree, but go ahead, Christian.
I mean, I think that like you obviously need like a healthy balance, everything in moderation. You need a healthy balance where like, yeah, he doesn't need to be a perfect improv, but he can't be doing mental juggling when it comes to the point of that. Like you need, like, obviously there's a talent to reading a prepared speech. As much as people say like, oh, he read right from the paper. Well, yeah. You're speaking in front of millions of people. Obviously, you need to have some kind of preparation. So, like, for that, cool, that's fine. But, like, again, when it comes to more, like homeland security issues, say that there was, like, a terrorist attack somewhere, God forbid, what would Joe Biden's answer be? I'm very intrigued on, like, seeing what that would be. Like, what would be his immediate response to that? obviously he has all the people he needs there to come up with a plan. But at the end of the meeting, he probably has to come up with a decision. That's what I want to see is, does he have, one, is he receptive to the people around him that will give him feedback? Obviously, they will give him advice for what to do. And two, will he be able to comprehend all that and then make a decision, even if it's an unpopular one amongst the people he's with?
I mean, I think that from the limited evidence I have about Biden doing things like that, I think Biden would be much better than that. I feel like Trump is legitimately just surrounded by yes men.
Mm-hmm.
But I like because Trump decides if he likes someone based off if they like him, and that's just it. I don't think that's a good person to have as president at the end of the day.
I just want to talk about what I liked from Joe Biden in the debate. So I thought he did decent. I mentioned how before in our pre-debate show that the bar was set low for him. I think that was a factor, but I was impressed, and it seems that you guys were impressed too. I was most impressed with his answer on race issues. I feel like it was a very moderate yet comprehensive and empathetic statement. If you want to watch, it's on YouTube. Just put Joe Biden debate race issues. It was interesting when he said that most cops are good people, and then a few bad apples ruins the bunch. I thought that was a very interesting thing, and that actually kind of raised my opinion of him up a little bit, because it shows that like I don't appreciate, especially a leader, immediately condemning like one side without taking in consideration like that issue. Like it's a very 9/11 argument where he says all Muslims are bad. No, that's just not true. Is it a different case? Yeah, there is arguments that we even discussed to say that the system kind of makes it hard to be a good cop, of course. So, but still, nonetheless, I was impressed with that answer and what he was doing after that.
Agreed. I think his answer is better than Trump's on race relations by far.
Yeah, I agree. Sean, it looked like you want to say something.
I was just going to say, overall, I think Joe Biden did do better at actually answering the questions that he was asked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not sure I'd say either one of them, quote unquote, won the debate, but I think Joe Biden did better. Though, like you said, he also had very drastically low expectations going into it. Yeah. So, like, he would have had to trip over them to screw it up. Steal a line from West Wing.
So what I really want to know now is, obviously, since Trump got COVID, was this the last debate? What do you guys think?
No, he gets out of quarantine the either day of or day before the next debate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When's that?
I think it's in a couple weeks.
Probably like October or something.
Yeah, it's probably middle of October, I believe.
Yeah. And we talked about this beforehand, but either way, there's still vice presidential debates.
Those aren't publicized too much. I don't know when those are happening.
I don't know either, actually.
We have 3 minutes, by the way. So
I think there's usually only one vice presidential debate, and it's after everything else. It's like the last quote unquote public event.
No, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday, October 7th.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I guess we'll talk about that next time.
Do you guys want to do like a quick conclusion?
Yeah, if you have anything to say. I said whatever I needed to say, but
yeah. So I just want to basically wrap around and say that even though I don't think Joe Biden had a awesome performance, I think he exceeded my expectations, which I said in the previous episode. And because he already has the lead and didn't do anything too crazy, I think that's why I would say he won the debate. I actually, you know what? I would say Trump lost the debate more than Biden won it, because he didn't really gain any new supporters, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. John?
I would agree with that. That's a pretty fair assessment of it. I would definitely say Trump lost more than Biden won. I don't know. I'm looking forward to this next debate. I'm also kind of you know what? I'm not saying it would help Trump get any voters, But for the absolute meme of it, I would love to see Trump get over COVID and be like, the king is back. This is what I told you. It was nothing.
If he said the king is back, the liberals would freak out. It's game over. They would just kill him.
I want to just finish with something. Our pre-debate show, if you haven't watched it, watch it. I feel like we had some great foresight and we predicted a lot of things that happened. So, yay us. I was telling people, I'm like, oh, yo, I said this. You'll see this tomorrow. But anyway, thank you guys for joining us. We're still minus Luke. Luke is buried in a book somewhere.
TikTok. Buried in TikTok.
Buried in TikTok. All right.
Love anatomy.
We'll see you guys next week. Ciao.
Bye.